This week on Soundbites, snack time. I'm Chris Herrington, and after a week in the Great White North, I am back in Memphis where it's still wet and cold. But it is warm here in the upper elevations of the Crosstown Concourse, where we are again recording. I'm joined this week again by digital director Holly Whitfield. In the wake of last week's most watched event in television history, we'll find out if we in fact watched, and more importantly, for our purposes, what we ate or wish we had. Before that, we're going to sift through some recent Memphis food news. But first, you can find all of our food stories and this show in podcast form at dailymemphian.com, or you can also sign up for our This Week in Food email. And you can catch Soundbites Thursdays at 11 a.m. left of the dial at 91.7 WYXR, your crosstown radio, or subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your audio. And if you are a Facebook user, we encourage you to join our Table Talk group there as well. What's up, Holly?
Hello.
Good to see you back here.
Yeah.
We both survived at least 2 weeks. We're back in the Crosstown Concourse. It was the Super Bowl last weekend. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But first, let's muse over some recent Memphis food news.
And there's been a good bit. So.
Yeah. So there's always openings and closings. That's the nature of the game here in the restaurant world that we talk about on Soundbites. I'm excited about, it hasn't opened yet, but coming soon, apparently, coming this summer, I'm excited for Petals of a Peony at the old Paulette space at Overton Square. I guess that's still how we recognize it. It's a little confusing. That's how we described it, I think, in our story. But the original Paulette space, I think, is where Robata is.
Right.
And then at one point, Paulette had expanded into the space next door, which since then has been all kinds of things. I remember Schweinhaus.
I think that's the most notable.
Yeah. I want to say it was a barbecue place for a while called Stanley's.
Oh, yes.
There was rumor that it was going to be a fine dining restaurant that never opened. And in fact, at one point, former Grizzlies head coach Lionel Hollins was going to be an investor in the fine dining restaurant that never opened.
Yes.
But it's going to be Petals of a Peony. I think we've talked about this restaurant on the pod recently.
We did.
It was one of my favorite new places last year. You still have not been?
I still have not been, but I've had this conversation with several people since we reported this, I think, last week. They're like, oh, something's finally going in the space where Schweinhaus used to be in Overton Square. It's a Chinese food place, which we don't have in Overton Square. And people who have been really like it, and other people like me and Natalie, we were talking before the podcast, like we haven't been because we haven't driven out to wherever it is in the Great East. And so we're all like, well, let's go try it before it opens.
Yeah.
So tell me what to order.
A reconnaissance mission. The cumin lamb, I think, is a sure shot. That's one of the dishes I wrote about. Petals of a Peony was one of the restaurants I wrote about when we did our Best Things We Ate feature.
Right.
Not on this pod, although we also did a variation of this pod, but as a story in the Daily Memphian. It was one of the 2 or 3 places I wrote about. It is a Chinese restaurant, but it's more specifically a Szechuan Chinese restaurant. Particular province, particular style of cooking. That not everything is hot, but leans pretty heavy into really spicy hot dishes.
That's what I read. Yeah, that gave me pause, but I'll give it a try.
Not everything. The menu will give you the little pepper icon, so you will know. But it's a different kind of vibe. The menu at the one in Cordova is a smaller menu than your typical epic Chinese restaurant menu.
Got it.
Which I appreciate. It's also a very nice sort of atmosphere. I think this is sort of great news all around. I think, it's a already locally successful place that's quite good. It's only a second location. The other one is, in the deepest suburbs sort of in Cordova, depending on your vantage point. And to your point, this is something that we're not duplicating something that's already available in the neighborhood there at Overton Square.
Right. It's not another burger spot.
Yeah, there's Chinese food not far down the road at the other end of Cooper at Mulan, which also has a Szechuan menu. But this is something a little different, and it's filling up, a notable empty that's been empty for a long time. And so I think this is very welcome news all around.
I agree. Everyone that I've talked to has been excited about it. I'm excited about it. I was actually talking to someone else about how I went to this really nice Chinese restaurant in Vancouver in Canada years ago, and it's always stuck in my mind as I love a Chinese takeout. I had Mulan this past weekend at one point, but would it be nice to have kind of something, a step up? Even if not white tablecloth, then just something a little bit more.
This is a subject I've heard David Chang. David Chang is Korean, not Chinese, but David Chang, the chef restaurateur who does a podcast, he's talked about this. about how Chinese food in America became so takeout oriented, takeout associated, that it sort of undercuts, what Chinese cuisine can be sort of at the higher level. And that is sort of more rare to find in the United States. And Petals of a Peony isn't exactly like a fine dining restaurant, but it is closer to that ilk than what I think certainly most, white American diners associate with Chinese restaurants in America. So,
right. And I think that's also why people are excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Along with an opening, we have a closing. Chef Tam's, which it was at one point in the Cooper-Young area, moved to the Edge District area. A chef who's gotten a lot of attention beyond the city of Memphis, probably one of the more identifiable chefs in the city. Her restaurant, I believe, is closed in the Edge District.
It has, yes.
But she's got other things cooking, so to speak. It seems like, so we'll see. We'll keep an eye out on what's going to come next for her. But that is a restaurant you can no longer hit up.
Right. She had another location of Chef Tam's in Texas somewhere, which is where she's from. I don't know if that location is still open or not. But like you said, she's got a lot of stuff going on with products, with television appearances, who knows what else. So I'm sure she will have some kind of presence in the Memphis food scene.
Another new restaurant. We got an opening, we got a closing, another opening. One that I think sounds really promising is a new place, and I think it's supposed to open soon. We wrote about recently, Kitchen Laurels, what's going to call it. It's in the old Farm and Fig space on Cooper, kind of in Cooper-Young, a little bit further down, not off the intersection. This is a project of a chef who formerly was in the kitchen at Tsunami, a guy named Kevin Sullivan. And he had one of my two food quotes I really liked that we've had in the last couple of weeks, quotes in a food store. He said, "I'm trying to be everyone's grandma." I think that's a goal right there. So I like the idea of this place. I like, he has that Tsunami background, but it sounded like, from the way he described it, what it reminded me of a little bit was Liquor Store, the original Liquor Store in Broad, because it's going to be a breakfast and lunch spot in kind of a small space. And it sounds like it's going to be sort of casual stuff, but casual stuff from the perspective of someone who has cooked higher end.
Yeah, he said staples you grew up with as a kid, made with love.
Yeah.
Yes. That sounds great to me. I mean, I only went to Farm and Fig a couple of times. Unfortunately, they were closed on Sundays, which is like the day that I'm going to have time to go out and get breakfast in that fashion. And it sounds like Kitchen Laurel is also going to be closed on Sundays. But I get it. People have to be closed someday. But they're going to be open the rest of the week with, like you said, breakfast and lunch.
Yeah.
And I have always said that Cooper-Young and Midtown in general needs more breakfast places.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
I go to Barksdale's.
Setting aside like weekend brunch, but
Yeah, setting aside weekend brunch.
Daily breakfasts. Barksdale, that's it. That'd be where I go as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, you can get a...
And I love Barksdale, but that's very much a greasy spoon, old school, like Southern diner kind of place.
Love it, yes. So this will be maybe something a little bit different, but still accessible.
Yeah.
And homey in a way sometimes. The brunch spot is not. So... I hope I'll be able to get out there on a Saturday.
Well, speaking of breakfast for breakfast, what are your feelings on breakfast for dinner?
It hits a spot sometimes.
Yeah, you do that?
I haven't done it in a really long time.
Right.
But I agree it does hit the spot. And we did it growing up. Like, I think with families, it can be a really great solution. Going out or staying in, if you've got kids and you're just like, oh my gosh, here are eggs and pancakes, please be quiet.
So I think that is an accurate analysis.
Mm-hmm.
It is not applied to me, I found in my personal experience. We didn't do that. We didn't do it growing up for me, and my family is not into the idea. And so when I do breakfast for dinner, we have nights where we call fend for yourself nights sometimes, where it's like no one's cooking, there's leftovers, there's frozen pizzas in the freezer. It's a fend for yourself night. Probably a couple times a week, it's a fend for yourself night. Now that our kids are old enough to, in fact, fend for themselves. And so sometimes on fend for yourself night, like I'll let my son throw a frozen pizza in the oven and I'll whip up an omelet, for myself. And so I do that for dinner sometimes. We bring this up because Stacks, which I'm not sure, I should know this, but I'm not sure, it's not explicitly local. I'm not sure how wide the chain is, but there are multiple locations in the Memphis area, including one I know in East Memphis.
I'd say it's
near Poplar and Perkins.
It started out local.
And Did it start local?
It started out local with that East Memphis location was the first one. And then now they've kind of expanded and have random locations in Alabama and Mississippi.
This is Stax, S-T-A-K-S, not S-T-A-C-K-S, which is a real word, or S-T-A-X, which is a Memphis record label. Stax, the name refers to pancakes. And I'm pro pancake. In fact, I make pancakes every weekend for my son. But pancakes at night, unless it's like I'm in a diner and there's been alcohol involved and I'm trying to soak that up. I don't, if I'm making breakfast for dinner at home, I'm probably not doing pancakes. Yeah?
No, probably not. Probably
not. What about
not.
the word Brenner?
It's fine,
I think Brenner is very fetch-like. I think Brenner is not happening.
I don't think it's happened either, but when you say it, I know what you mean.
Okay.
And so maybe I'm kind of lenient on words in that way, even if they're a little cringy. It's like, I know what you mean when you say it. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think, to me, this will get no further than what was the Taco Bell thing? The fourth meal they were trying to make happen that also did not happen. Fourth meals happened, but people don't use that term.
No.
Let's see, a couple more food news items and we'll get into the main topic of the day. So you've never been to Petals of a Peony. I don't know if you've been to this place. I know our podcast gremlin with no microphone, Natalie, is a fan. City Silo, there's stuff going on there.
Yes.
They are relocating their East Memphis to a bigger location. I believe they're moving from the Sanderland Center, like basically a block away, to the old McAllister's Deli location in front of Paradiso. They're also adding cocktails. So I don't know, cocktails. I think I approve. I approve of cocktails in pretty much any circumstance.
I actually went to City Silo in their current Sanderland location last week for lunch.
Okay.
I met up with some of my friends and former coworkers from Memphis Tourism. We had some lunch there, and we were there for a couple hours, and it was super busy and completely packed the entire time for lunch on a Thursday. And apparently the students from a nearby girls' school, I don't know which school, they were wearing uniforms.
Right.
The entire student body goes there for lunch.
St. Mary's is not too far from there. Neither is Hutchinson. It's sort of in between the two.
So
could really go either way.
Many teenage girls having lunch there, super packed with them. But it's great. It's tasty. It's healthy food, quote unquote, but it's really filling, and I like it. I know that they have wine, maybe. Either, if not at that location, they do have wine and stuff in their Germantown location.
So the Germantown location, correct me if I'm wrong about this, it is in the, what's the name of the?
Saddle
Creek. So it's right there on is it Farmington or West or Germantown Parkway? Whatever. It's there, that sort of where the J. Crew store and all that is, sort of. It's in a building that used to be, that for a brief while was a pizza place called Grimaldi's.
Interesting.
I think there's been other things since then. Anyway.
But I bet their new location in the McAllisters will be a little more spacious and set up like the Germantown one.
Yeah.
It's popular enough. I think this is a great move. And their food is good. It's just tasty.
This question came up at one point when we were talking about coffee shops. It was decided City Silo, not quite a coffee shop. Is it a place to bring your laptop for a couple hours or no?
People definitely do. People were there doing it.
Okay.
Despite the chaos that I have just described.
Interesting. I would feel self-conscious about that, doing that amid the chaos,
I wouldn't at Germantown.
Yeah.
Natalie says she wouldn't at Germantown. She disrespects Germantown, is what we're learning.
It's more spacious.
Oh, more spacious. Okay.
Patio seating.
Yeah.
All right. One last piece of news till we move on. And this is one of these things that we reported on this, and I was glad to know about it, but I'm not 100% convinced it's going to happen, because the estimated time in which this place would open is late 2025 or early 2026.
Okay.
And that is Pollo. I think I pronounced that correctly that time. Pollo Campero, which is a Guatemalan fried chicken chain. And I am deeply in favor of a Guatemalan fried chicken chain.
Yes.
But what I loved is one of the executives from the company, we quoted him to this effect: "We love the fact that chicken consumption is higher in the Southeast than in a lot of the country." I agree. It's both a true statement and also a statement I embrace.
I think it's great. Please come here, Pollo Campero. We would like to welcome you with our open chicken-eating hands.
Right.
Please calm down.
Right.
I've heard that stat a lot about the South, whether it's the Southeast, sometimes it's Tennessee, other times it's been Memphis. Like, we consume more chicken or more chicken wings than all the other whatever's can find. And I actually had a period of time when I tried to source that claim. Like, I was contacting like Tyson and like Sanderson Farms and stuff. I was never able to like confirm that, but sounds right.
I think we're just going to go with that.
I think it's
Per
fact
capita
now.
chicken consumption, Memphis number one on the charts.
Number one.
I have a hard time disbelieving that claim.
Exactly. Yeah.
So speaking of eating chicken with your hands, it was Super Bowl Sunday last weekend. Noted sports podcast sound bites.
Yes.
Did you watch? And they're not going to sue me for saying Super Bowl, are they? Isn't that some kind of law or something? I think the Supreme Court has weighed in. You're not allowed to say that. I
the
don't care.
large game.
Yeah. So did you watch the Super Bowl?
I did not watch one single second of
All right.
the superb owl contest.
I had it. What'd you do? What'd you do instead on Sunday?
Yeah, and I didn't not watch it because of any political personal statement I was trying to make. It's my friend Katie's birthday this week, and she wanted to go to Cameo. Bar hosted what they called the Sad Girl Drag Brunch. So we were having French toast with drag queens earlier that afternoon.
Yeah.
And then we like popped over to the Blue Monkey for a second drink, and we had some of those hot wing egg rolls. And then I had to get to work and go to bed early because I did the early word on Monday morning. So I just did not participate directly in the football part of the day. Although, as I've just described, I did do some of the drinking hot wing egg roll situations that a lot of people do on Super Bowl Sunday.
So I did kind of watch the Super Bowl. I had it on. Mm-hmm. It was just me and my son. I was packing and going through things because we're getting ready to put our house on the market. And this is all I do every waking second, and we'll be doing for the next 3 or 4 months probably, is doing things related to this. And I'm already exhausted. But I turned on the Super Bowl while I was doing that, while I was packing CDs and sorting through magazines and all that kind of stuff in our office. And my son did not watch any of it because he didn't care. He popped his head in every once in a while and said, "Who's winning?" And he barely knew who was playing, right? But I did, and I didn't go out of my way to do this, but I happened to have in the freezer a bunch of chicken wings. So I did make chicken wings.
Nice.
So, I didn't order out. I made chicken wings at home. Not the best chicken wings. I did not employ my grill in any way or to get a deep fryers. I did the oven style, a little cornstarch and spray. And I may have gotten this recipe from Natalie. I can't remember. Maybe not. Anyway, I did chicken wings. I did half like a makeshift made up dry rub and a half sort of a makeshift made up sort of Asian marinade. Had 2 different varieties. It went fine.
Were they whole?
They were not. I do prefer, but Natalie and I have gone, we're simpatico on the subject of wings. We've gone over this before. We prefer whole wings. I did not have whole wings. I had the pieces. So Holly.
Yes.
Are you a flats? Or are you a drummies person? Are you a whole wings person? What are your preferences?
Probably a flat person, but really, they're both good. I'm not like a huge hot wing person. I like hot wings. I've gotten into them in the last like 5 years. But before that, I don't know why.
So
I know that's like against the law, and I may be excommunicated from the city, but that's the truth.
So I can speak for Natalie on this subject because we've done this before. Natalie and I prefer the full wing, give them the preference. A whole wing, and you know what to do. If it's cut up already, we prefer the flats to the drummies. My personal grand unified theory of hot wings, let me test this out on you.
Okay.
The drummy is the breast of the wing.
Okay.
The flat is the thigh of the wing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so one dries out more, one is more flavor, more tender.
But sometimes, it's fine.
It's fine. I'm not turning down a drummy, but I prefer the flats. So wings are now considered like a classic. You could call this a Super Bowl party. We could look forward. Maybe you're having an Oscar party, right? This kind of thing.
Yes.
So I went through a list and I divided it into some winners and some losers to me. And then I have some things I have some personal recommendations of some other stuff that wasn't on the list. Where are you? Do you want to throw out some favorites or not favorites? Should I just throw some stuff out and let you evaluate?
Throw some stuff out since you've got your listed categories already.
All right. So wings. Is wings, we'll move on from that, but that's super popular.
Yeah.
You like that as a party food or not like that as a party food?
I think it's a crowd pleaser. I think wings are good. Yeah.
I think wings are a must. The only objection I can see, assuming that you eat chicken, would be the messiness factor.
Sure. But
You
people
know?
are, especially if it's like a Super Bowl situation or a sports moment,
All
we're
right.
not wearing our Oscar gowns over to our friend's house.
All right, chips and dip.
Yeah.
What dips are you
Hello.
pro and what dips are you anti?
I am pro most dips.
Right.
I'm not a buffalo girly. I don't like a buffalo flavoring, really. I know I'm weird.
The buffalo chicken dip is something that's become more popular recently, probably along with wings. It's not really my favorite either.
I don't know why. There's just better applications of all of the ingredients. But, I mean, I love a spinach artichoke dip. I love a 7-layer dip with, like, the beans and the lettuce and all the little bits and pieces. That's tasty. Can't go wrong with those. I love a really good, like, restaurant-style salsa that's, like, in the refrigerated section
Right.
of the grocery store. Not the one that's next to the chips.
The ones that's next
Yeah.
to the chips is probably too salty in addition to
Yeah.
not being fresh, you know? Yeah.
But I like the texture of, like, that. Again, I think it says, like, restaurant style. Yeah, I like that. Love a dip, though. I had some really good salsas at Local Lime in Germantown. One was like a mango salsa. I'll go for that.
I'm
You
pro
can get one.
all forms of queso,
Yeah.
salsa, guacamole.
Yes.
I am anti, this is a me problem. This is not me making a declaration about the true merits of something. I'm not a spinach and artichoke guy because I don't like artichokes.
Fair.
I think probably my least favorite vegetable is the artichoke. The 7-layer dip, I don't know. I don't trust it. Too much could go wrong with that many layers, I think.
You're probably right. But it's still good.
I think underrated, and then maybe it's a little too frou-frou for some people, depending on, unless you're from the part of the world where this is normal food. But like, I think like hummus and feta and that kind of dip stuff, underrated in this context.
Yes.
Bring me
Agreed.
some good hummus. I don't trust grocery store hummus very well, but like hummus from like a restaurant or hummus from like a Middle Eastern market or hummus you make at home. But good hummus. The feta dip that Grecian Gourmet makes locally is very good. But
Yes.
like that's a whole range of sort of dip stuff with feta, whether it's with pita bread or feta or pita chips or just some kind of good, toasted bread.
I'm with you on that. I was singing the praises of the Mediterranean board at Knifebird, which has this stuff that you're describing,
Yeah.
along with like an olive tamponade, which I don't even like olives, but I like this for some reason. It's just really good. It was with pita and little vegetables and stuff. This should be a part of our dip spread for parties.
I think because Mediterranean food broadly is really good for like, finger food, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Mediterranean, Super Bowl, Oscar party, whatever concept should be more prominent. More of that. And along those lines, I'll throw out something that I make that I think is quite good that fits in this category. I like grilled feta. And so it's a dish where you'll get like a whole block feta, cast iron pan, grill it and, get it sort of gooey with honey, with herbs, with nuts, almonds, and or walnuts, with some toasted bread or pita. That's my jam.
that sounds amazing.
So
Yes.
that is my personal recommendation for this kind of stuff. Where are you on sandwiches?
I love
Whether it's
sandwiches.
sliders or other kind of things. Broadly, we all love sandwiches.
We all love sandwiches.
But in the
In this
context of
context, I have a weakness for those like ham, Swiss, Hawaiian roll, baked sandwich
this is
things.
popular.
This is really popular. Where you like
I'm against it, but it's very popular.
where you pour like the butter and herbed like oil all over it. I remember
My cousin
Yeah.
was discussing this.
poppy seed. Yes, it's those. They're
We
just
went over
really
to my
good.
cousin's house ahead of Christmas briefly, and she was getting ready. They were doing all finger food kind of stuff, which we talked about ahead of Christmas, which is a good idea. But she was making another thing on my list that I disapprove of. She was making pigs on a blanket and then discussing how she was going to make these things. I'm anti all of these things.
Sure,
I'm anti pigs in a blanket. I think it's kind of gross.
that's fine. More for the rest of us.
So you're pro pigs in a blanket.
Yeah, I'm pretty pro pigs in a blanket.
I don't trust, and now he's asking why it's gross. I guess it depends on my level of control or my level of trust in the person who's presenting.
Okay.
I think the quality variance with hot dogs is very wide, and I'm often distrustful of hot dog related things. I'm also distrustful of the blanket. I don't. So if you're getting like,
No
Oscar
pig,
Mayer wieners
no
and
blanket.
stuffing them in a crescent roll, a Pillsbury crescent roll or whatever, I don't really want to eat that. I don't know. I need some gourmet action in your
Okay.
Pigs in a Blanket. You know, I need to be high toned when you're getting into that kind of like mystery meat food kind of meat kind of stuff.
You should ask for what you want. You deserve it.
Yeah.
I am totally fine with all of that you just mentioned. A few years ago, my friend made the ham slider poppy seed things for Cooper-Young Fest, and having that come out of the oven at like 2 p.m. after you've had like way too many weird spiked lemonades was such a satisfying bite to have at that moment. So I've always been like, yes, I want to have that on my finger food party spread. We are not concerned with the quality of the ham on this as well.
Okay.
So like, that's what I'm saying. I understand why you wouldn't like it.
Yeah, I'm someone who's really weird about like deli meat. Like if I have it for more than 3 days, like I'm throwing it out, you know, from the grocery store. So yeah, this maybe is a me thing.
Fair enough.
Although to get back to this question of like sliders and that kind of stuff, broadly speaking, I think most sandwich stuff is too substantial for the vibe of like grazing and finger food and like sharing stuff off the table and watching TV or whatever. So I'm not as big into that. What about like sweets? What kind of sweets do you think work in this context?
I didn't even.
I think cupcakes is too much.
Mini cupcakes though.
Yeah, maybe
the little bitty ones.
I'll tell you what I did.
Natalie, tell
Natalie
us.
once again was not on a microphone. What do you do, Natalie?
I made Oreo balls.
Oh, Oreo
balls.
Yes, they were a big hit.
I like
What
anything
goes into the Oreo ball other than Oreos?
Cream cheese. And
Cream
chocolate.
cheese and chocolate. Okay, it's sort of a cousin to the sausage ball.
No,
Kinda.
it's a cousin to a cake pop.
Okay.
So the sausage ball.
Ooh, a cake pop is a good one though.
So okay, my general feeling on the desserts: chocolate chip cookies, brownies. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Keep it somewhat light. Brownies aren't light, but at least there's no frosting involved, you know. But sausage balls, I think we talked about this before. This is a common Southern thing. I grew up eating, but no one in my family ever made it, so I don't really. But this is like an ideal, like throw it on the table, like you know, kind of food.
2-bite.
I
We
don't
haven't
know why
even
the
talked
rest of the
about
country hasn't picked up on this.
meatballs in a crock pot. Not to go back to savories, but
Yeah, I'm distrustful of that too.
Mm-hmm.
But like the Swedish meatball, this is a very like, you know, upper Midwest kind of thing.
right.
I suspect more common at Super Bowl parties in the upper Midwest. You're pro meatball?
I think so. I think every time there's been like I've tried. I've always been like, this looks weird, but let me try it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's tasty.
I think this is even more than pigs in a blanket. This is the ultimate. I approve of it if I'm making it, or I trust the cook. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to avoid it unless like I think the person. If I'm at the home of the person who I know cares about food and is a good cook, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm going to walk past the crock pot and go grab some chips and dip. I'm outing myself as somewhat of a food snob in some very particular areas. I guess.
That's fine. It just makes me want to like have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches even more.
All right. Well, even if you didn't do any of the stuff at your Super Bowl party in the past, I say plan an Oscar party or just plan a let's get together and eat food around a table with friends or family, which is always a good thing to do. We've thrown you some ideas out there, some of our likes, some of our dislikes, and it's been good hanging out. Holly, it's good to see you again.
Yes.
Glad to be back in Memphis. Glad to be back on Soundbites. And until next week, we're out of here.